Guys, welcome back to my channel. Here we are a couple weeks from September, and I'm sitting out here in the garage getting ready for a super tournament here at Grand Lake of the Cherokees. I was going through my baits and just going through my head the things I might need, and it seems like every year it's a routine. I always get a guy draw a boater. He's usually hugging the bank, pinching me off to say. It used to make me cringe. I used to hate it, hate it, hate it. It's just a miserable day on the water. But again, in my previous videos, I've talked about a positive mindset. And now I'm to the point where I'm actually looking forward to being pinched off on the bank. And I'll touch base on this in a second on what I do. But first, I just want to tell you the reason why he's up there. The bass have been in their deep summer haunts, out there in those deep brush piles, ledges, or whatnot. And around the full moon in the summertime, the perch spawn. And they spawn, and whenever they do, the bass have a tendency to go up there and capitalize on eating easy prey, which is the perch. So they're going to be in that 3 or less foot of water. The bass they'll be cruising the banks. Also, the shad are starting to migrate back into the pockets, which, the bass will actually force them to the bank. So again, they can eat them. So whenever I get a guy that, he's hugging me up against the bank, I have nowhere to cast towards the bank. Actually, you're going to be within 2 or 3 feet from the bank because he's casting parallel down that bank to stay in that strike zone where the bass is. Now think about this. A bass can feel a minnow. They can feel them with their lateral lines. They can feel them crawling around the rocks and all that. So, a bass knows whenever a bass boat that's 20, 21 foot long gets within a certain area, they can feel the wave coming off that boat as it moves towards them. Plus, they hear the pinging off the live scope transducer or the down imaging transducer in the back. So they're wherries in the area, and and it's starting to get louder and louder, the closer the boat gets to say. Well, the bass gets weary of that. And I know from scuba diving, whenever I come up on a bass that say he's on a rock pile or something like that, the bass will actually swim off. And about 20 to 30 seconds later, he'll come swimming right back. So you got to keep that in mind. Whenever that boater is going down that bank, that bass is feeling that boat or the pinging coming off the transducers. So he knows he's in the area. He will actually leave and come back. Well, what you can do as a co-angler sitting in the back is literally cast straight out of the back. And you'll hear boaters talk about it. Hey, just cast straight out of the back. You'll catch them. You'll catch them. Actually, they're telling you the truth. You will catch them. Usually what happens when that boat comes up on a bass that's not willing to bite his buzz bait, or he's usually throwing a chopo, for instance, down those banks this time of year, the bass is onto him. He'll shoot out. And by the time that you make that long cast out of the back and your bait comes across, he's already came back to that spot where he was spooked from the beginning. And usually you can pick up that fish. I know there's several times that that's all I've done all day long. Literally, I can throw my lure straight out the back and more like just drag it along the back and I'll catch fish. What I want to do is talk to you about a couple of techniques to use in this situation. First and foremost, going to be the buzz baits. All right, you've heard me talk about this. This is my accent buzz bait, Jacob Wheeler's buzz bait. It's a finesse buzz bait. I like to use this on days that are more calm, got a little bit of breeze. It's just not over aggressive, and fish have more tendency to bite something like this. Now, if we got wind on the water or a lot of waves or whatever, I'll go to this crocodigator. It's a louder bait. It's a head-hitting bait. It's got a really loud thump to it, a clanking sound to it, and it'll draw them up in that windier conditions or, again, wavier conditions. Second bait, the War Eagle buzz bait. This is that Screaming Eagle. It's a 1/2 ounce. And of course, again, I always do the double gold. It seems like it puts off more flash. And always run a trailer hook on it. Make a long cast out, click your bell over or your reel over, engage it, and you can just slowly reel that thing, keeping it down about 1.5 feet to 2 foot underneath the surface. Whenever they're not wanting to come up all the way to the surface to, say, grab a buzz bait or a chopo, you can actually capitalize on this here because it's a little bit lower below the surface. Another bait I like. This is so tried and true. A lot of people don't throw this anymore. It's kind of a forgotten bait. A man -1. Of course, this is the bigger one. It literally dives down about a foot, foot and a half underneath the surface, and it is extremely loud. This bait here, you don't have to worry about it getting down into log jams and all that. It actually comes over stuff or comes through stuff pretty well. The one thing I do suggest is when you get it out of the box, get those hooks off, put those KVD triple grips on there, whatever they are. Dynamite bait. This has saved my butt so many times, and again, not a lot of people are throwing it. The last bait. This is for the ones that like on days where they're just not coming up anywhere close to the surface, and your boater's gonna remain staying on that bank. He's gonna do what he found fish in practice doing. That's throwing a top water. Hardhead, literally 5/16 half ounce. I don't go heavier, I don't go lighter, I just stick with this right here. If you go too heavy, you'll start getting down into the rocks and staying hung up a lot. I paired up with this is a Rage Crawl, I believe. This green pumpkin blue. These are phenomenal baits. Just drag it down below, ticking the rocks as it's dragging behind the boat. A lot of people have a hard time with hookups on this right here, and I'll eventually get into what rod I use. But one of the things you can do is always leave your hook open. Do not expose this bait whatsoever. You'll struggle with your hookups. Always leave it open. As a matter of fact, there's sometimes I get it in, it's just like it's sticking up there in the air. It does not matter. And another thing to help you with your hookups is when the fish grabs this, they're usually coming in behind it, sucking it, and they're coming with you. You'll feel them hit it. Do not set the hook then. Wait till the fish actually turns, and you'll feel him. When he finally turns from you, it's a lean. It's not a snap like you're flipping, like a flipping bait or like a snap hook set slack lining. You're leaning into them. Do not, if you jerk it for some reason, it'll come right out of their mouth, or you'll lose them. To say, I've never had a good experience with it. But again, lean into them. Well, guys, I hope that helps. Check me out next week.